Cover two. Welcome, everybody, to the Cover 2 Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm here, like always, with my man, Houman. How's it going today, Houman?
Hey, Will, it's going really well. Really excited to be doing our first mock draft post the NFL draft. Once we've seen where all the players have landed, and this is going to be a fun one. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I mean, we're going to do another sleeper draft, which is going to be exciting, and Houman's going to tell you exactly, who we've got as far as going into the picks. So what is the breakdown of players?
So, first and foremost, what we're doing is a 12-team PPR draft, full PPR. We've got Will drafting at the 3rd spot. I'm over at the 8th spot. We're going to do a traditional snake draft, 14 rounds. We've got, let's see, our rosters. We've got 1 QB, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, tight end, 1 flex, kicker, and defense.
Okay, awesome. Now, like always, make sure to download on Google Play, Spotify, and, of course, Apple iTunes, or I should say Apple Podcasts. And make sure to like and subscribe like always.
All right, so, Will, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get things going. I'm going to go ahead and start the draft here, and we're off. So we've got the computer going here. Now you're up. And what we want to do is go ahead and talk about, we've got, obviously, Dalvin Cook going number 1. And so this is going to be something that's a little bit, I just got out of my draft here. We've got Dalvin Cook going number 1. And then we've got Alvin Kamara going at number 2. So that kind of changes a little bit based off of our, ADPs that we saw on the last time we did this. And you're on the board here, Will.
Yeah, and I've got a pick between 2 guys that I thought maybe one would fall to me. But I do think that this team and this, they're geared to have a good season, and that's going to be CMC. So I'm going to go with Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I was hoping that you were going to go ahead and do that because he is the 101 in most settings here. And then after you take CMC, we've got Derrick Henry, then Saquon Barkley, and then this is a little surprising to me, Devontae Adams going at the 106 here, and it kind of breaks my heart because Jonathan Taylor went right before me, and that's where I was going to go with that. I'm a little bit surprised with Devontae Adams going this early just because of the whole issue with Aaron Rodgers. At this point right now, we're not sure what's going on. They're bringing in lots of different quarterbacks. Your boy Blake Bortles, again, makes it on the podcast in Green Bay. So that's going to leave me in a position here at the 8th spot. I just lost my guy, and this is where I'm tilting a little bit, but this is where you always need to have a plan. And if I'm taking a look at everything that's available right now, I do still have a couple running backs that I'm happy with taking here, and I'm going to go with Ezekiel Elliott. And now we've got the turn happening.
Wow, Kelsey.
Kelsey going at the end of the first round is a little surprising there. So I'm going to give another pause here so that we can kind of take a look at what's going on right now. And so we had, Diggs go after me, Tyreek Hill, lots of receivers going here. Hopkins, Kelsey Hopkins, those are all pass receivers going at the end of the first round there. Then to start off the second round with the 201, we've got Ridley. Then we're back to running backs with Jones, Eckler. Eckler was someone who I was eyeing at this next pick. And then A.J. Brown. So I'm sitting here. I've got one running back. Receivers are on kind of a premium now, but we're kind of getting to the point where we're almost at the point where we're out of the upper tier of running backs. So this is a tough one for me because there is a run on wide receivers going right now, which makes me believe that some of these teams are going to probably start taking running backs here soon. So I am going to get into the mix here and go ahead and take Joe Mixon.
Oh, I like how you did that.
Why?
Go get into the mix here.
Oh, yeah. I actually did not intend that pun. I wish I could say that I did, but I didn't.
There goes Nick Chubb, which I didn't think he was going to fall to me.
So you know the clock here. While you're thinking, I'll go ahead and talk about some of this. So Nick Chubb did go right after me. Then we continue with the pass receivers here with DK Metcalf, George Kittle, and Michael Thomas. And now you're up. You've got a running back. You've got CMC, arguably the 101 draft pick, and now you're sitting here at your second round.
Yeah, so, For me right now, like, there's three wide receivers that I really want, and I do think that I might get one of them. So I'm actually going to do what is the smart thing, and I'm going to go running back. So I'm between two. It's between Cam Akers and Antonio Gibson. I think that Cam Akers is going to have a better upside this year for me personally with that offense, so I'm going to go Cam Akers.
That's a good call. I thought you would either go Akers or Jefferson, and Jefferson went right after.
Oh, they left him for me. Love it. Well,
so that make a quick pick here. So I'll recap. We had Jefferson go right after you, then Keenan Allen, who I was hoping was going to make the move back to me. Then we had Mahomes. DeAndre Swift went off the board right before you. So now I think I know who you're going with here, and I'm looking at that wide receiver board, and I think I see who you like.
Yeah, so we talked about him a lot this last couple of weeks, and he is a prime pass catcher, and I do think with Justin Fields there, he's going to have a much better year. So I'm going Allen Robinson.
Darn you! That's who I was looking at. So then we have, if you want to do a recap here while
sure.
I'm at my board.
So Scary Terry went, which that was probably, if the three wide receivers I lost, I would probably go with Scary Terry there. But Gibson went just after me, which was a little bit of a thought process because I was between those two. I could have actually got all three and just kept my running back solid. But I really wanted to get a premium wide receiver.
Yeah, and I'm kind of tilting here because I am a little bit befuddled as to what I want to do. I guess I kind of have to get into the wide receiver mix right now, but there really just isn't a wide receiver one on the board at the moment. I mean, I'm not seeing it. So there is a pretty good amount of running backs on the board, but that's where I see the talent right now. And I am going to go ahead and let's get this going. And I'm going to take a guy that I think is going to meet that potential this year, and that's Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Okay. Well, there goes Waller. I knew there was no way of getting one of the best tight ends in this board. But wide receivers.
You know what? And I was hoping I took the risk there. I was about to actually take him instead of that wide receiver one. And I thought he could make it back to me, and I took that gamble, and I lost. And I am hurting right now because I was banking on him as being one of my top pass receivers here. Shoot. Oh, boy. This is what the actual real tilt feels like right here. When you think you have everything planned out really well in front of you, and then it actually just explodes because that was what I was banking on. And I do need to go into the wide receiver well, and I'm going with Deontay Johnson.
Okay.
So then after me, I had Josh Allen go, second quarterback taken after Mahomes was in the third round. Then we have David Montgomery, DJ Moore, Kenny Golladay, and now we're up to Will at the 4-10.
Yeah, if you pause it for me for just a second. I know who I'm going to take, but I just wanted to talk about this real quick. So I'm taking a risk here. I'm actually going to go with another running back at this spot. And the reason why is because I really like his upside. But I'm hoping, and since you're not picking after me, I'm hoping that one of these guys in T. Higgins does fall to me in the next 4 or 5 picks. So that's what I'm banking on. But I'm going to take the rookie sensation, you can unpause it, with Najee Harris.
Yeah, I was actually, and that's what was going through my mind while I was picking. I took Edwards-Helaire, was to take Waller, and I knew Helaire would probably be gone, and then take Najee at the 405. But I thought that was a little too high for where I would want him. I would want him maybe late 4th, early 5th. So you cashed in on kind of what I was hoping for there.
Well, I'm going to take T. Higgins like I talked about. That was my guy. But I thought taking that risk, especially with the running backs that came after with Carson and Jacobs, I'm not sure if he would have been there possibly.
Yeah, and now I'm sitting on the board, and not really a whole lot there at wide receiver. Dang, I got really crushed in the wide receiver department. This is too early for me to start taking wide receivers that are this tier and here in the 5th round. But I kind of have to. Taking a glance at tight ends, I've got Mark Andrews, Dallas Goedert, really nothing I would even value putting here in the 5th round. So I am there's still great value at running back too. That's what's really bothering me. But I do need to probably get one of these wide receivers. And this is a tough one, Will. This is a tough one. Tell me about some of the players that have gone off the board here, Will.
Sure, no problem. So I feel like in our last draft that we had, it was a very big rush on running backs, which is basically what usually happens. I feel like in this draft, there was a bunch of wide receivers that went that kind of put you in this situation. And you just never know going draft into draft what's going to happen. And so I feel like, when you get to the situation, Houman, you possibly might just take somebody that you feel more confident about, but it's really hard. Maybe look in the quarterback position because it is pretty vacant in that wide receiver position as far as a number 1 or number 2 someone.
Yeah, and that's where my thinking is right now, that I do see wide receivers later that I could take. I don't see one here that warrants being taken with this high of draft equity in the 5th round. So there is one tight end left that's in that upper tier. He's the guy that's right outside that upper tier, and that's Mark Andrews, and I'm going to go with that right now.
Okay.
So then after me, we got Prescott going off the board. Then we got a little bit of a run on running backs here. Hunt, Edmonds. Like seeing Chase Edmonds go this early. That kind of validates what we had talked about after the draft, where his stock went up because Arizona didn't really address that. And then we do have a run on quarterbacks here with Herbert. Then we have Beckham, and then Russell Wilson, then Juju Smith-Schuster, and now I'm back up here in the 6th round. And I do have my 3 running backs. Still some decent running backs left on the board, but this is where I do need to start maybe thinking, hey, is there a quarterback I'm interested in? And if not, is there some wide receivers I'm interested in? And it's kind of shocking me to see something that I do see, and it's actually starting to stress me out a little bit. So I'm actually going to pull the trigger on this, which is a little bit crazy for me. I think you know what I might be talking about.
Oh, no.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I feel it.
Do you? I kind of have to, because if I'm taking a look here, I gotta go. I gotta stick to this, man. I gotta go with I'm gonna go with Brandon Ayuk.
Oh no. Okay. All right.
From San Francisco. I think he's gonna have a pretty productive year this year, and I'm glad I made that move because I did see James Robinson come off the board, along with Dallas Goedert going right after my pick. Then we had a couple receivers in Cortland Sutton and Chase Claypool, and now you're up. Mm-hmm. You got your 3 running backs. You got 2 wide receivers. You got a pretty good 5 there. What are you looking at here, Will?
So I'm going to take a mixture player because I think that he's going to help me, and I think I do need a wide receiver tight end kind of type. And I do think that the other wide receiver that I really want is probably going to fall to me, so I'm going to go with Tanya.
Okay, so you're going Robert Tonyan, and that was a good call because Noah Fant went right after you, so you may have missed out on that. I was hoping DJ Chark was going to make it back around the turn to me. Robbie Anderson goes, Deebo Samuel goes, DJ Chark, like I just mentioned, goes, and now you're back up, and I don't know if those are one of the receivers you were eyeballing.
Yes, Mr. Deebo was my guy. So, I'm between 2 guys. I'm going wide receiver. I'm between Curtis Samuel and Jerry Jeudy. And the reason that I'm going to go with Curtis Samuel because I feel like I don't know what the situation in Denver is going to be. So I'm going to select Mr. Curtis Samuel.
All right, I like that pick. So then we have Rodgers.
That's who I thought you were going to take. I thought you were going to take Hurts.
I was going to take, and somebody... Dang it. That's a knife right to the heart and just killed my draft board right there. There went Jalen Hurts so bad this time. Really got me. Oh, man. I was primed to take him. I was about to push the button. I thought he was going to make it around to me. So being in this 8th spot really sucked for me this time. But you know what? This is why you plan and prepare, and you kind of figure things out going forward to, hey, what are you going to do? Don't be married to just one guy. If you have other options, now I'm going to kind of revert back to my old strategy. I'm going to look for a quarterback later. I'm going to load up on some premium spots right now. And when I talk about premium spots, I'm talking about either running back or wide receiver. And I'm going to take someone who right now has very high draft value. We've talked about him. Maybe I can trade for Jalen Hurts if this were an actual thing. But I'm going to go ahead and take Mike Davis here, a starting running back, to kind of load up. So if you want to go ahead and talk about who's being taken here, because I'm going to be back on the clock.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So we have Leonard Fournette that win. That might be a little bit of a panic buy for that player. Cooks, Davis. Davis was somebody I was looking at if it came around to me. And then Moister went with Ronald Jones and David Johnson. So you're up now. And Brady just went. Look at that.
Yeah, Tom Brady did get off the board there. So now I'm looking. I'm good at tight end. I don't need to touch tight end again. I'm going to start making some moves here now that might be a little bit surprising to you. And I'm going to go ahead and jump into this well here. And I'm going to be taking, I know he wasn't someone that I said, I'm doing it, Will. I'm doing it. I stick by my guns. I'm going with Devonta Smith.
You know, that's interesting. You know, there goes Judy. There goes Parker. Parker was somebody I was looking at.
We have Logan Thomas go also, James Conner. And now you're up.
And I'm going to go with the guy that I was talking about in our last video. You know, he's got a quarterback in Justin Herbert, and I think he's going to have a great season, and I'm hoping that he stays healthy, and that's going to be Mike Williams.
I think that's a good pick. He's a guy that can deliver on some home runs.
Running backs.
Some running backs. Drake, Harris, Etienne. I was anxious to see where his ADP would be. 9th round seems pretty good to me. And then we got Zach Moss, and now you're back up.
Yeah, and so I'm looking at what my options, and I'm looking at that I've got I got now 3 running backs, I've got 4 receivers, I got my tight end, and so I'm looking at 2 things. I'm looking either maybe for another running back or for a quarterback. And if you've been with us since episode 1, I'm telling you he's going to be the best quarterback, and that is Mr. Joe Burrow, and I'm taking Burrow now.
Yeah, even though I think you did have a bit of a misspeak in that, you did go ahead and stick by it. So you did end up drafting him. Then we have, Jamar Chase went right before my pick here, but then we did have a run on some receivers with Brown and Laviska Shenault. And then Nyheim Hines back into the conversation here. And this is where I do feel the urgency, and I do feel comfortable taking one of my backup plans for quarterback here in the 9th round. And that's Matthew Stafford. He's always put up the numbers. He's in a new place. He's in a more high-powered offense. I think those numbers are going to stay consistent. If not, he may even surpass that. We have Singletary, Gesicki, Tannehill, Michael Pittman, Michael Gallup right at the turn. Then we have a couple backup running backs going for depth, Cohen, Tony Pollard, and then Matt Ryan, who was going to be my other safety quarterback had I not had a chance to get Matthew Stafford, which I did. And now looking at the wide receiver board, I am, invested in going into a wide receiver here. And right now I'm sitting with, let's see, I've got 4 running backs, 4 strong running backs that are starters in my opinion. Wide receivers where I've got a little bit of issue. I've got Deontay Johnson, Brandon Ayuk, and Devontae Smith. So I definitely need to get into the wide receiver game again here. And I need to get someone that's going to, provide a little bit of consistency to me. And I feel that this player could be kind of a steal right here. And that's going to be Antonio Brown, because he did re-sign with the Bucs. And, he ended the season really strongly with Tom Brady. Became one of the go-to receivers in that offense. And I think getting him here in the 10th round is a really beneficial thing for me.
I'm crying.
I was just about to say that I think you had your Jalen Hurts moments right now. You just got Hurts yourself, and I see what it is. And
I wasn't going to take him here, but I think I was going to try to catch him on the way back. I didn't know if people were missing out on Pitts. If you could pause it for a second.
Yeah, and those of you that are listening at home, when I say he got Hurts, his guy, Kyle Pitts, got drafted right before him.
So my issue right now that I'm having, just looking at my draft, is I don't love my wide receivers. I like them. I don't love them. And looking at the wide receivers that are there, I do feel like a lot of them are still very risk guys, where they could have great years. They're not the number ones on their teams, and I don't see anybody that I'm loving going into this. Running back wise, I see one guy that I really like, but I have a rookie running back, and I don't want to go with another one. So I've, of course, now put myself in the thing because I was going to take a second tight end, which you usually don't, but I like that Tanya had that flex position, so I was thinking about maybe taking Pitts here. So if you can start it, you can. I think everybody is sleeping on this guy. Swift is the starter in Detroit, but the guy that is behind him is and showed that he can get touches in a crowded backfield and get you some fantasy points. And he bailed me out last year, and so I'm going to go with him, and that's Mr. Jamal Williams in Detroit.
That's an interesting pick there, Will. I think he's in the position where he could be the third down guy, get a lot of the passes in that offense. Oddly enough, Javonte Williams goes right after you, another Jay Williams, who is someone I was eyeballing for maybe a little bit later because we talked about him and how he has that second half of the year upside. And who knows what happens over camp. Javonte Williams could become the guy. And then we had Irv Smith, Latavius Murray, Evan Ingram, and now you are back on the clock here. And
yeah, pause it for me just a second, just because I just want to make sure I'm not wrong on this. So I'm going to go wide receiver. That's where I'm at. I like Josh Reynolds just because he's basically the number 2 out there in Tennessee now. Some rookie wide receivers that are there that are taking my eye a little bit. But overall, I think that I'm going to go with this guy. So he was the number 2 in Buffalo. I think he's going to get a great shot this year in Vegas, and that's John Brown.
Well, that's a risky pick there, but I kind of like where your thinking's at, where they cleared house and, they don't have a whole lot going on over there. And there goes Jalen Reagor. Trevor Lawrence, welcome to fantasy football, going right ahead of me at the 1107 pick. So I'm at a point where I feel like I still need a little bit of depth at receiver. I've got a tight end that I'm not absolutely in love with, but I do like his production. I'm solid at running back still. I don't need to worry about running back again. This is a spot where I'm going to kind of surprised he's still on the board at this point. And I like the option of having this, and I'm going to go with T.Y. Hilton. We'll see. It's a change of quarterback for him with Carson Wentz. So, he could be the guy. It could be a gamble here. Dang it. And there went my risk. I was going to hope Gronk made his way back because I was surprised he was still on the board because I think that's great value here in the 11th or 12th round. But I needed the value of a wide receiver depth more than I did with tight end depth. Although with a flex position, that's where I kind of debated it for that moment. Like, should I go ahead and take Gronk there because he can fill in a position via flex. And that gamble again didn't pay off. So those of you that are listening at home, this is a good indicator of how your draft can kind of go sideways, and you got to make the best of what you can. Even though you do have these plans of where you think players are valued ADP wise, they can fall right through your fingers. So if I'm taking a look here, now I'm just really looking for depth. I don't see a whole lot on the board right now that's, especially at running back. I think running back kind of got decimated pretty quickly here. So, Will, if you want to talk about a few of the players that just went ahead.
Sure. So James White, I still don't know what's going to happen in that offense as far as running back wise. He had significant roles, and with Sony Michel, what does it look like if he stays healthy? Jonnu Smith went so late, I believe, behind Hunter Henry. I think he's the better of the two tight ends in that offense, but possibly not. And then, of course, we had Daniel Jones go before Baker Mayfield, which is interesting as well. So some quarterbacks, some wide receivers, and one that the wide receivers I'm really worried about is Shepard. I just don't know, with all the new additions on offense, especially in the wide receiver position, how he fits with that team.
Yeah, man, I'm looking at this draft board, and we are really hurting right now for options. So like I said, I'm looking at wide receiver, and I want someone that's going to be, that could end up being a home run guy. And I've got a couple options here, and I'm going to go with the rookie from last year, and that's Henry Ruggs. I think in that Vegas offense, he showed some shine there to where he could be the star, and I'm going to kind of bank on that going forward. And to give you a chance here to take a look at your board, we got J.D. McKissick goes right after my pick. Then we have Philip Lindsay, who would have been a pretty decent, sneaky pick there. Then we have Darrell Henderson, and then Cole Beasley, who was someone I was actually eyeing instead of Ruggs, and I kind of went with the upside of Ruggs, having a little bit more of a home run threat than Beasley did.
Well, I'm going to go with the last year's number one on his team. Obviously, they got a new number one this year, but I think the Giants are going to have a better season this year offensively, especially with their running back in Barkley. So I'm going to go Darius Slayton.
That's a good pick. They got a lot of receivers there now, and then Wentz getting drafted. Now we had our run on kickers. We had a couple go with Justin Tucker and Harrison Butker. Gus Edwards, who would have been a pretty good depth pick at running back. I actually had him queued up if he made it around to me. And now you are back up here, and I'm assuming you're not going to be taking a kicker.
No, I'm not going to take a kicker or a defense right now. I'm going to take a guy that came out hot and then, of course, got injured. And so I want to see how he's going to fit in that offense with Jonathan Taylor, and I'm going to go Marlon Mack.
I like that. It's a crowded backfield there. We had Nyheim Hines get drafted earlier. And now I'm up, and I am sticking to my guns here with not drafting a kicker or a defense. And I'm going to add some depth here, and I'm looking at my board, and there are a couple players jumping out at me, and I'm going to go with this one here. I did mention him in one of our Love It, Hate It segments, and I'm taking Trey Sermon because he has the potential to fall into that 49ers offense if anything does happen to Mostert. We do see Mostert getting a big bulk of those carries there, but they're not married to Mostert long term. They did draft Sermon. They invested that high draft equity in him. So this is where I kind of like to take the shot on those rookie wide receivers, rookie running backs. And with that being said, leading into this, I am going to take another rookie running back here on a guy that I think both of us thought this, he can step in and probably start right after training camp. And I think that's Michael Carter. There's not a whole lot of competition in New York for that running back position, and we think he has the talent to actually take that spot.
So for me, I'm not taking defense. I'm not taking kicker. I think we're kind of cheating the system in a way, which is nice. But I'm really looking at two positions. I'm looking for either a backup quarterback or a backup tight end. That's where I want to fit with my depth. And I understand. Okay, so everybody's going to say something. I understand. I don't know the situation, but I've got to take him because you never know if he's going to play the entire season, and that's Desean Watson.
Here in the last round, this is a great spot to take that gamble on him this early in the offseason to where before we know what's going to transpire, he could be a guy that doesn't get drafted at all, he could be a guy that doesn't even play at all. But if you're doing drafts right now and he's sitting there in the 14th round, why not?
Yeah. At worst, he's a trade bait later on if he does get to play.
Yeah, precisely. So if we take a look here, let me run through. I took, start off in the first round, Ezekiel Elliott, Joe Mixon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Then I jumped over to receivers with Deontay Johnson. Made the move to tight end with Mark Andrews. Then back to receiver with Brandon Ayuk. Then, in my opinion, I think the best value I got in the draft was here in the 7th round with Mike Davis. As of right now, until they get another running back, or if they don't ever get another running back, then I went with Devonta Smith, Matthew Stafford, Antonio Brown, T.Y. Hilton, Henry Ruggs. Then took a couple flyers on a couple rookie running backs here at the end with Trey Sermon and Michael Carter.
Yeah, I like your last two picks with those two because we talked about how 3 rookies last year were either in the top 10 or just outside the top 10 in fantasy value. And so I would take that as well all day, these flyers. After I took my first rookie running back, I was kind of a little scared to take another. But if you look at my board, Christian McCaffrey at my first pick with Cam Akers, Allen Robinson, Najee Harris, T. Higgins, Tanya. At tight end, we got Samuel, Mike Williams, Joe Burrow, Jamal Williams, John Brown, Darius Slayton, Marlon Mack, and then I ended up with a little bit of risk with Desean Watson. But I feel like, going into this, what was your pick that you feel like now after taking him that you kind of rushed, or you took a risk that you don't think paid off?
I had a couple. I think the first one was over in the third round where I passed on Waller thinking he would make it back to me in the fourth. That's 8 picks. I should have gone ahead and taken him instead of Edwards-Helaire. Edwards-Helaire would have been gone, but I then could have still had a shot of taking David Montgomery. Mm-hmm. So to me, that was my first mistake, and kind of, if I could go back, my first mulligan that I would take back. And then later, choosing to take Ayuk over Hurts. I think that Hurts hype is out there, so we can see his ADP right now. He got drafted here at 7th, so if he's my guy and I really wanted him, I should have taken him there in the 6th. What about yourself?
I think for me, probably the Joe Burrow pick. I mean, I just saw him and he looked shiny, and I wanted him.
Now, what's interesting to me about your draft board, those first 5 picks to me are outstanding. You got 3 great starting running backs. You got 2 solid receivers. And then you had the Tanyan pick, where I feel like you could have waited on him and maybe taken another one of those receivers like DJ Chark, which I think you were eyeing. And then you could have gotten Pitts a couple rounds later, I think that's the, if I had your board, I think you kind of won this draft. Your depth is a little bit lacking, but I think those first 5 you hit home runs on, and then if you had made that choice to maybe wait on tight end a little bit, especially with Tanya, we don't know if Rodgers is going to be the guy there or not, I think you would have had an absolute home run of a draft there.
I agree with you, and I can tell you that in my experience, I'm usually the worst at the beginning of the draft, and my goal as the season goes on is I find those guys at the end of the draft that become my starters. So I agree with you 100% that my beginning of my draft was much better than my end. And, just going towards, and I think the Tanya pick did disrupt my board a little bit. I saw him again. I thought maybe I should get a tight end. I didn't really like any of the wide receivers other than Debo was the guy I was looking at, but I thought for sure he'd fall. And just like you with Hurts and with Waller, he didn't. So, but overall, I feel like this draft was probably a much more realistic draft than our previous one. Not only because, of course, we've got the rookies in and people that were retired that are now out, but I felt like it was a lot more heated in that I felt like the guys were gone faster.
Yeah, and this is our first chance of getting a look at players' ADPs because Sleeper does have the updates in here as far as, what they feel their player ADPs are post-draft. And we could see some of these guys that we had talked about, about a month ago in our pre-draft rankings, they've kind of moved up a notch or two. So it's going to be interesting to see as camp reports come out and, either some other acquisitions or any other free agent movements that happen, how that'll affect the boards going forward. And definitely looking forward to doing some more of these and see how they work out and player movements. So, Will, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up there for today.
Of course, and, yes, of course. Well, like always, make sure to like and subscribe. Check us out at the Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Play. And like always, have a great week.
Cover 2.
Cover 2.